joining you. Join us now covering the Michigan football team for The Athletic. His name is Austin Meek. Find him on Twitter at @ByAustinMeek. Visit theathletic.com, download the app, swipe, subscribe, do all that stuff for the exclusive content, just like the influencers tell you to. Austin, how are you, my friend? How's life? How are things, partner?
Hey, I'm good, man. I'm busy. Busy week for a bye week. I thought I might get a little downtime. It didn't work out that way, but that's okay. How are you doing?
You know, I was fine. And then last week, the story kind of comes out, and I see this picture floating around the internet. It's got the guy who tweeted it out. He changed his name to Steel Team 6, and it had Harbaugh with the winged helmet and binoculars and goggles and a radio headset. It was great, and I laughed, and I had a good time with it, right? And then I realized that as this weekend progressed and more news came out, this whole saga here might actually be way more serious than we originally thought.
Yeah, I think that in the beginning we all were trying to get our arms around this. And I mean, obviously the fact that the NCAA was investigating and that Michigan and the Big Ten confirmed that the NCAA was investigating, given Michigan's history with the NCAA, I think that I knew that it was something that could potentially be an issue for Michigan. But I felt like it escalated on Monday when it came out that Connor Stalions, the staffer who has been suspended at Michigan, was buying tickets at other Big Ten stadiums in his own name, mini tickets over 3 years, often in the same part of the stadium. One school we believe has video surveillance footage of somebody in those seats with a smartphone taking video. So to me, that certainly escalated the severity of it. But we still need to see where it goes. I think there's a lot that we still don't know about it.
So I was talking to a Division I basketball coach, right? And I asked him the same thing, and he's like, "Look, we have the same rules unless we're playing in a tournament that is a shared venue, and then you can sit in there and watch other teams." But he talked about the paranoia that takes place with coaches and video and everything else that's going on. And he asked me this question in return, and it was about ethics. He said, "Look, if a coach accidentally threw a play sheet away in the garbage can, you're not going to look at it?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm going to take it and I'm going to photocopy it." "What do you mean?" "I'm like 100 copies. Where are you as far as this being like an ethical violation versus something where, obviously Twitter's got a hold of it, so people are losing their minds. Like, where are you on the judgment scale right here as far as like how bad is this to you?
Yeah, I mean, the ethical side of it is a little bit tricky, right? Because sign stealing is not illegal in college football. Every program is doing it in some form or fashion, trying to decode the other team's signals. I've seen some videos floating around on Twitter and stuff that, look kind of nefarious in the context of it, but you got to realize, like, every program's doing this. It's just a matter of, in doing it, was Michigan breaking a rule by having people in other stadiums taking video. That's the part that you're not supposed to do. The way I put it in my column the other night is like, we don't sit around and really debate the ethics of pass interference. It's just a rule. Like, you can't do it, right? If you tackle a guy before he catches the ball, you broke the rule, you get penalized for it, and that's what it is. I guess that's kind of how I feel about this is, the ethics of it are a little bit murky to me, but the rule is the rule. And I think if Michigan broke the rule and if it's determined conclusively that happened, then Michigan should be punished, will be punished. And I think that, regardless of the ethics of it, Michigan's got to, face up to the consequences if they broke the rule.
Now, this is almost an impossible question. I say that because I think our listeners need to understand that what I'm about to ask you is really very difficult. But, okay, let's say the NCAA and the Big Ten say, yeah, no, you broke the rule. Where do you think they even begin from a punishment standpoint?
Well, I mean, I think you have to start with the fact that, this is not the first time that Michigan and Jim Harbaugh have been in this situation. I mean, they've been in this situation quite recently. So this is potentially a repeat offender type situation. And the previous NCAA investigation was not fully resolved, even though Jim Harbaugh had the 3-game school imposed suspension earlier this year. There still was a possibility of the NCAA coming back and assessing more. So from that perspective, I think that Michigan kind of has to prepare for the worst, hope for the best. I'm sure that there will be a lot of back and forth, as there always is, and the NCAA process seems to go very slowly. But I certainly think that the possibility of further punishment for Jim Harbaugh was out there anyway. And that was before any of this came up. So I think that if Michigan was at least aware of that before, they have to be even more on guard for that now.
That's, I wanted to bring that up as well because of the COVID-19 recruiting violation that was coined Burgergate on the internet and what that all entailed. And does this to you, I guess, and I don't know if you've heard this yet, but where did this story kind of come from? Like, it felt like it just kind of came out of the blue. Like, is there like mounting evidence of multiple universities calling each other and said, hey, did you see this guy? Have you seen this guy's name pop up who's on Michigan staff who bought tickets at the 45-yard line? Have you seen this? Are these teams and schools coaches talking to each other? Is this just from one like alleged source and other people just started looking into it because of it? Like, where did the story come from?
Well, we know that coaches talk to each other. In the coaching community, word gets out in terms of, hey, this team, keep an eye on this team. This team had our signals. They might have your signals. That kind of scuttlebutt, I think, happens in the coaching community quite frequently. Coaches have their friends that they talk to, and the coaches also have enemies, programs that they keep an eye on and maybe, spread some rumors about. So I have a feeling this is something that has been talked about in the coaching community for a long time. I don't know how it rose from that level to being an NCAA investigation. Obviously, at some point, the NCAA acquired some information that precipitated an investigation. And then, once the NCAA contacted the Big Ten and the Big Ten contacted the other schools that Michigan was going to play, and at that point, it's just a matter of time before it gets out there to everybody about what's going on. But I don't think that this has been like a big secret in the coaching community because we've seen more and more, sources coming out in the last few days talking about, this was something that we knew about, we weren't happy about. And I think there are probably some people in the coaching community who are in a way happy to see this coming back to bite Michigan because I think they were waiting for Michigan to get its comeuppance a little bit for some of the things they've been doing.
Austin, do you believe, is Michigan public enemy number one right now in the Big Ten from, the viewpoint of other schools? Nobody's really mad at Iowa. Hell, they can't even score. Nobody's mad at Wisconsin. Michigan State, people are kind of like, yeah, whatever. And Ohio State, I guess you could be mad at them because of the success that they've had, but I've always kind of taken the viewpoint, don't hate them because you hate them, right? I mean, shoot, anybody would like to dominate a conference for roughly 20 consecutive years. But, is Michigan the villain here?
Well, I think it's absolutely true that Michigan's success is part of what has fueled this. Nobody likes to lose. And if you've got a team that's won 20 games in a row in your league, nobody's going to be happy about that. And then on top of that, if you feel like that team is doing it in a way that is pushing the rules or crossing the line, then you're going to have a lot of people that are motivated to try to get that out there. So if Michigan was just like a middle of the pack team in the Big Ten, no, I don't think that this would have come out in this way. But look, I also think Michigan is Michigan. They've got this spotlight on them. And part of that is how Michigan carries itself, as a program. And Michigan has always, tried to take the moral high ground and present itself as a program that does things the right way. And I think when you present yourself in that light, and then if there's information that, hey, maybe you actually weren't doing that, then I think a lot of people are going to be really eager to point that out.
It's really well said, Austin, because it's kind of the same opinion I had. I mean, as an employee, I kind of walk this line of all right, what can you say? What can't you say? And it's like, hey, it's just like your pass interference reference earlier. It's against the rules. And if you broke the rules, then, you're going to take the penalty. You're going to take whatever the punishment might be. And we're going to move forward from there. And that's going to be that. But for those that believe that, we are, Michigan is above and beyond everybody else from the, this integrity and morality standpoint, I think there's way too much on the line. There's way too much money at hand. Winning matters way too much that I don't put anything past anybody. By the way, awesome tweet there where you took a screenshot of the headlines. Harbaugh brushes aside sign stealing questions and Michigan State apologizes for showing Hitler on the scoreboard. I mean, what a wild 7 days it has been. And I feel almost like it's disingenuous to talk about the game, but I do want to talk about actual football too. It's just, it's the bye week and this is the biggest story in the country. So Michigan versus Michigan State. Mike Sanders still outscores the Spartans 7-0. Michigan cakewalks them, 49-0. Is that maybe the lowest, most demoralizing point that Michigan State has been at?
Well, certainly since I've been around here, it is, and it's sad because 2 years ago that game in East Lansing, that was a really good game. If you were a Michigan fan, you probably didn't enjoy the ending of it too much. But just as an unbiased spectator, I thought it was a really good game, and I felt like after that game, like, hey, maybe these programs and this rivalry is getting ready to become a really evenly matched, high stakes rivalry for the next decade, and it's kind of stunning. I was talking to Chris Vanini, my colleague from The Athletic. We were sitting there and thinking it's stunning to think about how quickly everything unraveled for Michigan State, from just where they were 2 years ago. So, you never say it's rock bottom or that it can't get worse, but I have to think that for Michigan State, this is pretty close to rock bottom. They have the resources there to be a competitive program in the Big Ten, but they definitely have a long way to go, and they were not even close to being on Michigan's level the other night.
Yeah, that was demoralizing to say the least, and I'm right there with you on that one too. Like, I liked it. Both teams 7-0, meeting right around Halloween. Like, it's great for the rivalry. The state of Michigan was in the spotlight nationally. I thought it was a beautiful thing, and then the way it all, like you mentioned, unraveled. That's kind of what I'm really concerned about here with this Michigan story. Is that we've seen that ball of yarn go down the stairs and how quickly things can fall apart. Now you just got to kind of batten down the hatches. Michigan wins that 49-0 against Michigan State. The progression of J.J. McCarthy, Austin, I mean, I feel like we're watching him grow up right before our very eyes.
Yeah, every week he gets better and better. I feel like, every week I think, wow, this has got to be the best of J.J. McCarthy, and then he comes back the next week and tops it even more. So he's been really fun to watch this year, in terms of, especially after that game he had against Bowling Green, and he played so well the first 2 weeks, and then he has that night where he throws 3 interceptions, and that was a really kind of a turning point for him, where his season could have gone one of two ways, and he's just been on a straight upward trajectory ever since then, and played his way into the Heisman Trophy conversation, and I think will be there at the end as long as Michigan keeps winning. And just his ability to move the pocket, to extend plays, to adjust the defense with his eyes, and then find guys open. I mean, he's just in complete control of this offense right now, and it's pretty fun to watch.
Are you in favor of where the bye week is at? Like, I think it's really beneficial because, I mean, looking at what Michigan's expectation was and the way that everybody was talking about the program going into this season, you look at a bye week this late in the year and you think to yourself, okay, well, I mean, they've already played 8 games and now they're going to have a bye week. Well, yeah, you have your 4 regular season games, you have a Big Ten championship game, and then hopefully you have 2 college football playoff games if you can ever get past the first round of that dang thing. And you know what? Send Connor Stallions to whomever's game, that we're going to be a first round matchup. We need some signals and some signs from TCU and Georgia, for God's sakes. However, the bye week right now kind of feels like it could fit kind of smack dab in the middle of what they hope their 2023 campaign will fully entail.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, usually at this point in the season, teams are a little bit banged up. Having a week off would help you get healthy. I mean, Michigan's really remarkably healthy right now, I think in part because they've had so many blowouts. They haven't had to play their starters as much in the second half. And, with everything that's going on right now around Michigan, also not a bad week to not have a game, to let the players kind of get out of the spotlight a little bit and not have to answer as many questions about all this stuff that's going on. So, yeah, I mean, I think that we knew going into this season that it was basically a 2-part season. It was the first half that didn't look very challenging, and then it was the second half, which was going to be, Thunderdome. And so now they're pretty much there now. I mean, after the Purdue game, it's not going to be an easy game that they play the rest of this year, and this is a good chance to sort of rest a little bit and get ready for that.
Bowling Green was the first game under the lights. Purdue will be game number 2 this season with a 7:30 kickoff. What was your initial impression of the light show there at Michigan Stadium?
I have to admit, it's pretty cool. I'm a cynical sports writer who thinks every game should be played at noon so I can get home sooner and not have to stay up as late. I got home at like 3 a.m. from East Lansing. It's like, I don't want to do that again. So personally, I like the noon kickoff, but that being said, I did think the lights were pretty cool. I thought that was a pretty neat effect.
I'm with you, man. I mean, after 8 o'clock, my arm goes a little cold. I can't throw the T-shirts, as far as we're supposed to be able to toss them. And Harbaugh's looking at me like, come on, kid, you got to put some juice on it. I was like, I can't. It's past my bedtime, coach. I got to get the hell out of here. When you look at Penn State and Ohio State, Penn State will be on the road in a couple of weeks. Ohio State, obviously, the big one at the end of the year. Did you get a chance to watch any of that game in particular? And with Penn State, I mean, every year we do this. They start off looking really good, and then they run into a halfway decent team, and they just fall apart.
Yeah, I did watch quite a bit of that game, and I had kind of the same reaction. I'm not sure that I saw anything from either of those teams that would make me think that Michigan is not the best team in the Big Ten right now, especially Penn State. I mean, that was a disappointing performance from Penn State. I think a lot of people felt like that Penn State team really had a chance to hang with Ohio State, and they just couldn't get anything going. Offensively, it was just a struggle for them all day. And a big thing I came away with from that game, I'm just not sure that you can beat Michigan playing the way that Penn State is playing on offense. Like, I think you got to be able to hit some home runs against Michigan to be able to win that game. And I haven't seen that from Penn State yet this year. It's going to be a tough game for sure in Happy Valley. And defensively, I think Penn State will throw some things at Michigan that offensively, I'm just not sure Penn State's going to be able to hit enough explosive plays to win that game.
He is Austin Meek. You can find him on Twitter at @ByAustinMeek. Find his work covering the Michigan Wolverines for The Athletic at theathletic.com. Download the app right now. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Sign up for it, folks. I'm anti-subscription, but it's the one subscription that I do have. Austin, my friend, thank you so much for your time, partner. We greatly appreciate it.
All right, man. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Always appreciate being able to have Austin on the program, and CIA Stallions at the center of this NCAA investigation. And as Dave in Hudsonville called earlier in hour number one, it is going to be it's going to be very interesting how long this sticks with the Michigan program and what happens next.